Simon recently unveiled a few different things about how cooking might look like on Twitter. He said, in a response to a Hytale tweet, "In Hytale, if you're a cozy player who enjoys farming, building a cute home, caring for animals, cooking, and simply wants to escape the real world, we've got you covered. We're now assembling a dedicated team focused entirely on bringing this vibe to life and creating a living world filled with warmth, charm, and good vibes." He then later went on to say, "Food can be way more interesting than a simple hunger system. In the long term, we'll explore mixing ingredients for food that gives unique buffs, using activity-based meals like a mining stew for fast swings, prep combat meals, feed NPC villages, get quality system tied with bonuses, or build food mastery. Each food isn't wasted when it fuels buffs, NPC exchange, or NPC reputation. There are a ton of ways to avoid hunger mechanics. Not saying no hunger ever, but I'd like to explore some ideas first. At the moment, it's a buff mechanic a bit like in Valheim. Stamina and HP max and regen buff for X amount of time." He then later went on to say, after a few people voiced their ideas about how cooking should work in Hytale, and suggested, "Go ahead and make a 10-minute video for ideas." And I replied, "I just might." So this is that 10-minute video of my ideas. He already mentioned that it currently works a bit like how it does in Valheim, where it really only addresses your HP regen and your stamina regen, or even your HP and stamina max. One thing that I really like about cooking mechanics in other games that I've played, one specifically is Breath of the Wild. I really like how in that game you've got any 5 ingredients that you can choose to throw in a pot, and you don't really know what it's going to make until after you've made it, and there's kind of that experimentation and discovering of recipes that you have with cooking in that game. Something that Minecraft specifically is desperately missing is a deeper cooking mechanic. Something most great RPGs have is a really great cooking mechanic. Hytale needs to have good cooking mechanics. Like I said, implementing the Breath of the Wild system I think would be a great idea. Similarly, you could have different cooking stations that all cook different types of food. So you could have maybe, let's say, a stove where you're cooking stuff that you'd cook on a cooktop, an oven where you can make baked goods, a grill where you're making burgers and grilling meats or different things like that. It just adds to the depth of what you could do with a cooking mechanic. I don't think doing just what Breath of the Wild did is enough, or I also don't really think that doing what Breath of the Wild did and copying it one for one is really what's Hytale. So what I think you could do is take the farming mechanics from Stardew Valley, where you increase your farming ability and you eventually start harvesting better and better crops. So say, like in Stardew, how you have your basic crop that then becomes a bronze, silver, gold, iridium, star crop. And those better crops, when you use them to cook, in this game, in Hytale, they could become better buffs. So say your 1 minute mining speed buff becomes a 4-minute buff when you have your best crops. Or maybe your mining buff is faster. You could have those higher tier crops give you better buffs. Also, another thing that I think could help to tie cooking into the game to where it doesn't feel like this offshoot of something you can do is having different aspects of the game give you different buffs for cooking. So how that would look in my mind is, let's say you've got your fishing. I know fishing won't be implemented when it's in early access, but let's just say, for instance, you can fish in Hytale. And there's this one fish you can catch. And cooking that fish in this one specific meal gives you a fortune buff, basically, when you're mining. So fishing would actively inspire you to do cooking, which then would give you a buff for mining. And then say you go mining, one of the things that you can mine for is salt, and that salt helps you buff meals that you can make for other things. So let's say you add salt to a steak from a cow, and then that salted steak gives you extra duration on your attack buff to go fight a boss. Let's say you go foraging in a specific area. Maybe the mushrooms in that area give you a buff that's really good against attacking a certain type of enemy that's in a different area. That sort of thing. Leading people to discover these recipes and basically tying in all the different mechanics of the game through cooking, I think would be a really great thing. Then you also, on top of that, like Simon mentioned, could have it to where different NPC factions like different meals, so you can cook them meals and grow your rep with them by making them these meals. And if you grow your rep with them, maybe they give you new recipes for other things that you couldn't just find through experimenting. I also think it would be cool if there were like boss-specific meals that you can make. Say, you go and fight that Shadow Knight that he teased a few days ago. You fight that Shadow Knight, he drops some Shadow Ether cooking material that you can use that only comes from that boss, and it only gives this specific buff that boss meal can give you, basically. So, my big idea, in conclusion, take Breath of the Wild cooking mechanics, implement a Stardew Valley crop or fishing or meat star system, combine those into meals that give you different buffs, make those buffs attainable from different sources. So say, catching this specific fish gives you a buff in mining this specific thing gives you a buff to fighting this specific mob gives you a buff to fishing, and foraging this one thing in one area helps you with fighting things in another area. Make it to where cooking in the game forces you to play all there is in the game. But then the one thing you don't want to do with all this is make cooking too involved. So I don't think Hytale would benefit from like a Cooking Mama type mini-game cooking mechanic. I think the ingenuity of cooking comes through that experimentation of testing out different ingredients in combination with each other and finding those buffs or those meals that you really enjoy to make that give you the best buff for what you're wanting to do. And I think that's where the fun gameplay loop comes from. I don't think you necessarily get that from making it this big mini game or making it this chore to do. I think you need to make it something exciting, something people enjoy engaging with and want to engage with, because, oh hey, I need to go fishing because I need to get this fish so that I can go beat this boss, or I need to go mine for some specific thing so that I can go and get a meal so that I can go and get a better tool. That sort of thing. Those are my thoughts on what cooking could look like in Hytale. Let me know your ideas on what you'd like cooking to look like in Hytale. I'm sure Simon would love to see your ideas. I'll see y'all in the next one.